So there is this rush with a lot of churches to get black couples that are heterosexual married, and they're pushing an agenda of heterosexualism. And I talked about that in one of my videos. And the problem with this is if the relationship wasn't meant to be, it's not going to last, and it's a disaster before it starts. And so these people have to really, really want to be together and want to be married. And there's a huge problem with infidelity in the African American heterosexual relationships when it comes to males. Um, a lot of it, I really do believe that it was taught to men that it's okay to sleep around, it's okay to be abusive to women, you need to keep women in line, it's okay to exert your authority because you're the head of the household, you're the man, you're the king of the castle. And so a lot of that has been taught and it's been passed down from generation to generation. But more recently, I've also realized that it isn't just in black culture, it is also in other cultures. I've seen a lot of it in Hispanic culture where males feel like they have to show machoism and they have to show aggression, that women should stay home and have babies. And if you really observe those families, there's a lot of Hispanic or Mexican families that have like lots of babies. And being single, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to wait for the right person to come along. If you desire to have a relationship with someone in the long run, but a lot of times you'll find that there are more people that desire to be single and just date because there's so much going on in the world, rather than being forced or pressured into marrying someone they don't feel compatible with, or they feel like they were rushed or pressured to marry someone because of the marriage equality laws. Now that you have, people who are in the gay community that are choosing to marry. But even in gay and lesbian relationships, there are challenges as well. And that's what people fail to realize, that just because a person is gay, and what people are seeing, there's this fear that, oh, everyone's going to be gay, or they're promoting gay and it's a gay agenda, and now more people are going to choose to marry same sex. And that's not true, because even with the same sex relationships with people who are gay, and they're not bad people, but they have challenges as well. So, there are lesbian relationships that have a domestic violence. There are lesbian relationships that have abusive partners. So, you also find that even with gay men, they have challenges. Maybe you want to be with one individual, and then you have a gay man who he likes to go out and he likes to party a lot with different men, and he's not faithful to his partner. So even with the gay culture, there's challenges. So in African American culture, we've dealt with, stereotyping, racism, KKK, being um, insecure about how you look. And with women in particular, there's been lots of bashing. And so with all that going on, it's not only going on in our community as black females. I've also seen that this happens with white women, it happens with other women. There's a woman hater group that is prevalent online and out there in the world, where they disrespect women. So you find that these things can be really, really emotionally abusive to where women feel like they have to compete with other groups of women. And in with black women, they feel like they have to straighten their hair or spend a lot of money to look a particular way. Or when you hear all of the talk about how to keep a man and how to please a man, and if you look at some of the pornography, most of that will show males receiving oral sex. And so they almost always will have videos of men having oral sex with black females, or females even if they're not black. And it's always coined that white women are better at performing oral sex than other females of color. And so that is not a good thing. I don't really believe that that is a positive thing. So you have these women that compete with one another over a man. He's probably not working, he's not productive, he's not looking to stay with you and your children if he gets you pregnant. And they're promoting this thing where they don't want women to have um, birth control, and they don't want you to have abortions, and they're talking about pro-life. But when you have these women competing over men that they sleep around with different people, they're not faithful, there's a lot of infidelity going on. It's been taught to them that men can do basically whatever they want to females, and you don't have a decent group of men out there, or not enough, promoting monogamous and wholesome relationships. You have these women competing over these men who are not really worth fighting over. And it's happening everywhere. It's not just in the black culture, it's not just in Hispanic, and it's also white women who will compete over men. And you've seen these reality shows, The Bachelor, Housewives, their reality TV shows where women are competing. And then you've got some women who they are closeted. There's a few, and some of it is fear. I admit they don't want to admit that they're lesbian, but they have lesbian tendencies, or they're lesbian, and I think they should just be lesbian. Just be lesbian, and live your life like a lesbian, and deal with the lesbian issues. And it's nothing, I don't personally feel there's anything wrong with it, but you do have some mean people out there who won't allow people to be who they are. Then you have people who maybe they're not lesbian, they're quote unquote queer. So they could, one minute they're with a female in a relationship, next moment, if that relationship is no longer happening, they're with a male. So there's different types of gay people, so let's get that straight. But you have other women, yeah, I've heard the term ambiguous women, or women who maybe they are, somehow they are fascinated with black culture, so they mimic or they emulate black females. And you have these men who will marry them or get in relationships with them, and they will call them black queens. And this is not sitting well with the black community in terms of females that are really black, because what you've told black women is that they couldn't be black, that you didn't like their weaves, you didn't like their braids. But you have another group of women who aren't really black, or they're not 100% black, or at least not all the way black to some degree. You can't really see it. It looks as though they're from another background, and they have totally immersed themselves in the black fashion world and hair world, and the exterior culture of black people. and they've embraced it wholeheartedly. But the struggles that black people initially deal with on the daily, they have no clue. They're clueless because they are not black and they have not had those same black experiences, because they can go into places and not be racially profiled the way black people are profiled, or the way black women are treated. They're not treated in the same fashion. So it's a slap in the face when you have men that go out and they promote swirling, and it's not for the intention of I want to meet somebody different. It's more to be malicious, to be vicious, to promote interracial coupling because they're angry at black females. And so they like to bash black females and use black females in their rap songs as a doormat. And so they turn around and marry white women, or they marry women that aren't black, and they call them black queens. So this is what has been going on. So that's why you find a lot of women will remain single for those reasons. And then you have men who they are not responsible when it comes to raising families. And if they get a woman um, impregnated, they don't want to stay and help raise the families. But this is not only happening in the black communities, it's happening in with white women that have gotten in relationships with black males, are seeing that this is like a pattern, but it's also happening with white men too. Sometimes they will say, oh, it's just black men, but it's happening with the white men too, where they're not really being 100% responsible for the kids, or they're sleeping around, or they're there, but they're not there emotionally. You know, you can have some relationships where they're not really productive, and you know, being a father is not just making the baby, it's also being there, you know, when they need assistance, guidance, someone to talk to, homework help. But a lot of times you find that men, they would pretty much promote being promiscuous, and it's all in music, or at least it was. There was an era where in a lot of the music that it was promoted to be promiscuous and to have these wild fantasies and go out and pursue these fantasies, having two women to sleep with, or more than two women to sleep with, or going to these wild frat parties and going to, you know, black people have had like big parties, and it comes off as fun in the beginning, but a lot of times when men look at it, they look at it as like almost like a vampire, like a feeding ground for women to just sleep with a bunch of different women, and it's easy pickings. And you have these women who desire these relationships with some of these males because in her mind she's thinking he likes me, so she'll do everything she can to be involved with these males, even if he's, you know, involved in criminal activity. If he's been in and out of jail, she'll wait for him. She'll, you know, make his lunches, send him packages, do all kinds of things to please him. So everything that's promoted in American culture is pleasing males, doing things for men. And some women think that they haven't done enough, even though they've done beyond and above the call of what a couple would require. And they're doing it for men who have a really bad past, or maybe they're not really altogether rap tight and they're still out there committing crimes, but they want a decent woman to support them in this and be with them even if they get locked up. And so if you choose not to be involved with these type of individuals, you're called names, You're called all kinds of names under the sun. And then you have these men that'll threaten black women and say, I'm going to marry a white woman, or I'm going to marry a Hispanic woman, or I'm going to be with a woman who she's got black in her, but she looks like she's from some other country or somewhere, and calling her Black Queen. And what they don't realize is white women fool around too. So you have a lot of black men who they'll get in these relationships with Asian women, white women, Hispanic women, or whatever. And that is usually men that are like in, you know, they're educated, or they came into some kind of money, or they have some acting career, or they're a sports figure. And a lot of these men, they'll do movies about black culture and how they're with black women, but when in reality you find they're not with a black woman, they're married to some woman who isn't black, but they're promoting black culture. Like the Nat Turner movie, where he talks about the racial problems that are going on, or that have went on in the past, but he's had his own demons, and he's married to a white woman. So then you have white people who take a black movement, Black Lives Matter, and say it's White Lives Matter, and they go to church, they've been promoting Christianity, and they seem to have these happy families, and the families are intact because a lot of the reason why this has happened is because they've inherited a lot of the money through racism. It's been handed down generation to generation, so they can see the silver lining at the end of the cloud, so to speak. They can see that dream home and that white picket fence and those lovely families. It's not to say that they don't have their own internal issues within their family and battles and struggles as people, because people often do have problems even if they come from a family that's intact. And you have the mother, the father, the grandparents, and a lot of times white people can tell you where their people originated from, and they have something, some kind of emblem or something left behind, or something that was left to them from a dead relative. And they often can tell you who came from where, if they came from Germany or Ireland. And a lot of times what they don't realize, black people can't always do that. We can't trace our roots, and so there's a lot of misconception out there. And so you have hateful white people that post videos about hating blacks. They're in gangs, they're in groups, they have issues, they have problems. They're leaving their wives too, and cheating and doing things, but you don't hear a lot about it. You hear about other people from other cultures because either it's more prevalent that you hear about it because they enjoy seeing other cultures being at the forefront of tragedy. It seems to be, and it's always promoted that white people are on top of the game in terms of the economic ladder and class. And so you also have in the Hispanic cultures where women have lots of children, and sometimes it's not enough, so you end up on public assistance. But with having lots of children, they end up in a lot of gangs. And that's because even if you have two people together, two parents together, you have all those children, somewhere and somehow there's going to be some kids that are going to feel left out and like they hadn't gotten enough, and it's just too much, and they wind up in these gangs. So now we're at a place where you see white people fighting with each other over political issues. There's lots of extremism going on, and there are white women who are angered because you have white men who are telling them that they should dress a certain way, look a certain way, and they should have babies, and they usually are at the front when it comes to promoting pro-life and not having abortions and having more babies, because there was this talk among white people in the South that their race was dwindling. And so you have a lot of them saying, oh, well, we need to build our race back up and promote white, power. And this is coming from people who are, xenophobic in terms of other cultures. They want to promote white culture and they want things to stay basically the same. So they put a lot of money and energy into electing Donald Trump and Pence. And so now you have lots of problems happening, lots of protests and back and forth, bickering, and a lot of people who are very resistant as to whom is in leadership. So there are a lot of things that have been developing and have been coming out of all of this, where you see that churches have been reacting to all of this with the marriage equality. They're pressuring people to get married. And you have white people who are now showing that they have lots of problems. If it isn't problems with black people, it's problems with each other. They have different political standpoints of views. So now you're seeing that not all white people are on board with other white peoples and their ideologies as well. So you'll have different people from different points of opinions and views fighting with one another, and now they've taken to the internet to post videos about whether they hate black women, they hate white people, they hate black men, they hate swirling, they hate whatever they hate, and they just spew it all out online. And so it has become a whirlwind of chaos. And so now you have all these internet trolls that they do not hesitate to scroll through people's videos. If they don't like something you said or something about you, or if they don't like that you're, really trying to speak truthfully and candid about some of the political issues that have happened, if you're talking about immigration, if you're talking about the black community or the white community, or you're talking about something happening with people, males and females, infidelity, marriage issues, gangs, which is real prevalent, the gay culture, men who don't tell the truth about who they're sleeping with and lie to women and then give women diseases, and then the woman is blamed for those diseases. It's never the male. It's always a patriarchy, a man, a white man world type of issue, and then other men fall in line with it. It's like we rather listen to males than females, and it's even been promoted in Bibles and Bible scriptures that women are bad, women need to be seen, and sometimes not even seen. They shouldn't be heard, and a lot of this religion has promoted a lot of things that have come into question that people are now really looking at and examining, which they should have been all along. I really do believe that people should have really examined, okay, where is all of this coming from? And now that we're seeing things unfolding right before our eyes, you have this misogynistic culture, this rape culture, then you have this bashing culture that's online. It's chaotic, and so there's no censorship in the way people treat other individuals. So you have all of this fighting and all this chaos, and it's colliding, and it's a whirlwind of avalanche and a whirlwind, like a hurricane of political issues. And so we have realized you've got black people who don't even have any remorse for other black people. They see themselves as white. And so they get online and post videos as if it were somebody that was a part of the KKK leadership. And they post videos about how they hate certain governmental programs. black people are weak, and they do more bashing of their own culture than some white folks do, that have a dislike for other people of color. And it's sad. And then you have this male ego that is rampant out there of patriarchy, where these men feel that if they couldn't control anything else, they have to control women. So there's this race also to control women's bodies and to control what women say and to promote this male patriarchy standpoint of view on every political issue, that no women can make any types of sound decisions, as if women don't have a mind to think for themselves. And so you also have the Black Lives Matter movement, where you have black people who have been once again profiled and attacked and gunned down simply because of the color of their skin. There was recently a man who was stabbed to death almost in New York because of the color of his skin. So now you have black people who are reacting to this, and they're in groups, they're forming their militias. There are also some black people who don't think, and they post videos on the internet, and they wind up getting arrested quick and fast. But what happens to white people when they post videos? They don't get arrested as quickly, do they? And they're almost always able to carry out their bad deeds, and you don't hear about it until after the damage is done. And what is that message sending to black people when a black person shows you or says what they want to do, but they don't actually carry it out, but a white person is allowed to carry it out? And I'm going to say they're allowed to carry it out because nobody takes it serious enough, or they don't care. They want to see if they're actually going to kill black people. And when they do, then it's on the news and it's in the newspaper and everybody's looking at it. And then later down the road, it's promoted in a book. And somebody gets paid a lot of money for that book because people want to read about it. And that rarely happens with some black serial killer. And if you even hear about that. Usually white serial killers are in movies and documentaries, and it's promoted, and it's not taken serious. So there's abuse in other cultures. Men that are abusing women that aren't black, and they're promoting, this dominance of male culture to where it's so abusive that abuse is the norm. Or if a woman goes to court and she talks about her abuse, it's questioned. It's never taken serious, and that's why you find a lot of women won't report the abuse that they go through. They just deal with it until they can no longer deal with it. Now, there are some women who are unhinged, where they will be in a relationship that they shouldn't have been in to begin with. And they'll continue to be in that relationship, and they become the abuser because they want to be with that man, and they desire to have a husband, and they want to stay married, and they're going to literally make it work. And that can become problematic in and of itself. So some of these women are with guys who they're already have a loser mentality. They don't want to help you with the kids. They're not sincere. There's a lot of infidelity going on. There's no trust in a relationship. That's all broken down. So women have began to get a little more independent and go to school and try to better themselves when all else has failed with these pursuits. So you'll find women who choose to get in other relationships, maybe try different cultures, maybe try to travel and meet other people. That's not to say that things won't happen in other groups, but maybe they realize that, trying to, as in the black culture, they would say keeping it real, trying to marry other people of your own background sometimes doesn't always work out for everyone. So some people will find someone who is not of their own background. Now, that can happen for men in the black culture, but a lot of times it's promoted that they choose to go outside of their race and background because they don't like black women, and that is a negative type of reason. It's not a positive. So you do have lesbian relationships, and those relationships may good and well be healthy. Some people hate to see this. They hate to see that two women are together. They think that you need a penis to satisfy you. So is that what the whole relationship was about? Was sex only? Maybe she met someone who understands her and really cares about her and wants to stay there and be there with the kids and be in a real, genuine relationship, no matter what the gender and the color and the country he comes from or she comes from. So this is what is happening. So, some people get angry and they say, oh, we're going to use the Bible scriptures and talk about Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. And so you'll have some people promoting things using Bible scriptures about how they hate gays and how they hate swirling, or how they hate interracial coupling and all that. So women have gotten jobs, they've gotten educated, and they decide to pursue life on their own with a relationship or without. And that's commendable. And I think that's a good idea. Do what you do, how you do, and do you.